Hi, it's Hope and welcome to the video. This is going to be my November wrap-up and stats. This is the last 9 books I believe that I read this month, so if you want to see the first 7 books that I read this month, I will leave the link in the iCard and the link in the description to my mid-month wrap-up, because I'm saying thank God I did one, or else we would be here for 30 plus minutes probably. So first I'm going to get into my stats, which if I'm looking over here, it's because I have the stats on my computer. And there'll be a little pop-up thing here so you can read through them. In November, I read 16 books across 6,839 pages, and the average star rating was a 4.125. I read 4 contemporaries, 1 dystopian, 10 fantasy, and then 1 historical, which could be better in genres, but all of that, and 1 of those was adult, 3 were new adult, and then 12 were YA. So now on to the books. For a lot of these, I'm going to keep them short and simple since they're not the first book in a series. But I will say what I can and just say my thoughts. Hopefully trying to keep all of this non-spoilers. Like keep it spoiler free, but we'll see. So the first book, well not the first book that I read, but like the first book in this video is The Blood of Olympus by Riordan, which is the 5th and final book in the Heroes of Olympus series, and I really enjoyed this book. This might, in some ways, I want to say it's my favorite book, but then the other times I'm like, no, it's not. It's like, I don't know. I can't say much about this book since it's being the 5th book in the series, but it is the, like, conclusion to the series. I don't know what to say with not spoilers, but I loved all of the point of views we got. Some of them I was like, oh, we're getting a point of view from this character, oh my god. And the ending felt right and felt okay and felt great. I don't have much more to say with The Blood of Olympus besides I really enjoyed it. Next we have A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, and this is the 3rd book in the A Court of Thorn and Roses series, so I obviously can't say much. If you want to hear my thoughts about the first 2 books in this series, again, that will be linked in the description or the iCard, because I read this entire, like the first 3 books in the series this month, and this was a reread. I did really enjoy it. I enjoyed it more the second time around than I did the first time around when I read it in March. Was it March, April? I don't remember. I think it was March. But I forgot some things. So when I read them, I was like, I'm sorry, what? That's what this, there's a giant sticky note in the back here that how it's like, I forgot things happen, and it's like, like, how did I forget this? Like, notes being like that, because I forgot some things. All I'm going to say is, reading this makes me so much more excited for A Court of Silver Flames that comes out in February. And I have a feeling also when I read A Court of Frost and Starlight, which is like the novella that bridges the gap between the first trilogy and like the second part of the series, I'm going to be freaking out and wanting to read it even more. Be wanting to reread A Court of Silver Flames 100 times more than I already want to. But that's kind of why I'm reading the series, because of A Court of Silver Flames coming out in February, 3 days after my birthday. Next we have A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab, and this is the 2nd book in the Shades of Magic trilogy. The first book being A Darker Shade of Magic, where we follow Kel, who is an Antari, and an Antari is a person that has access to all of these different kinds of elemental magic, as well as being able to travel between these dimensions that we have. We have 4 different dimensions, which are labeled or called Red London, Grey London, White London, and Black London, and that is what kind of sets off the book. What sets off the series is Kel ends up bringing an object through that he shouldn't, and that's what sets off the series. And the second book is a like competition between the different like countries in a region to see who has like the best person with magic. I think that's what the competition was for. I can't remember exactly. Like, I know the competition was about magic and all that, but okay, I was like, why did we have it? I can't remember. But the ending, I'm so happy I'm reading A Conjuring of Light in December here, because I don't know what I would do if I wasn't, because the ending let off in like it was like a cliffhanger that is like, yeah, you're just going straight down into like a pit of a cliffhanger, and it's so good. This series is so good. It's an adult series that is written to it's an adult series. It's labeled as an adult series, but it feels definitely like YA in the way that it is written. It is very easy to understand, and it is so good. I gave it a 4-star. I don't think I mentioned that. I might have forgotten to mention it for some of the other books on this already. But I gave it a 4-star. I was debating between 4 and 5, and I'm like 4. And if I still have the same feelings in like a month after I finish the series, I might raise it up to a 4.5. I've yet to decide. Next we have Stay With Me by Jessica Cunsolo, and this is the second book in the She's With Me series. I read the first book in the beginning of the month, so again, that will be in the thing. I'm not trying to promote this video, but apparently like all of these just needs to be mentioned apparently. If you don't know what She's With Me is we follow a girl named Amelia Collins who moves to a new city a month into her senior year, and her goal is just to lie low, complete her senior year without having to move. But when she meets a boy named Aiden and his friends, she becomes friends with them, and that kind of sets her goals out the door. And this second book, we follow characters as they're entering like winter break, and they go on a trip, and that trip leads to even more drama. And I love this series. This was originally on Wattpad, and I read it in 2018, like end of 2018, I think. Yeah, around 2 years ago, I feel like, and I loved it. It is so good to see that it's published. There was a few minor differences between the Wattpad version and the published version, but I honestly like the published version better because it's a bit longer. I think it's about 30,000 words longer, I think, like 20 or 30,000 words longer, which it didn't feel longer. But again, I love this book. I am so excited. Hopefully the third book gets published, because the third book is really good, but a lot would need to be added to it. I plan on reading the third book on Wattpad because it's still available on Wattpad for free sometime this month when I have time. I'm currently obsessed with fanfics, so like, we'll see if I get to be able to read that on Wattpad, but yeah. Next we have How the King of Elfhme Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black, and this I gave a 4 stars. How the King of Elfhme Learned to Hate Stories is a bind-up of a bunch of little novellas following Cardan, who is one of our main characters in the Folk of the Air trilogy, as we go through different parts of his life and all of that. It is kind of almost like an origin to Cardan, which I enjoyed. I loved the artwork. I'll pop up a few like artwork on screen, but like the artwork is just so simple and yet beautiful. I love it. I want to get my hands on a physical copy just so that I can like just sit with the book open and look at the artwork. It is so beautiful. It is really short. It's only 200 pages, and their features, I want to say like 8 different like little stories, so it's very short. It is very cute. If you've read the Folk of the Air series and you feel like you want more content, this is 100% what you need. It's beautiful. Next we have In the Afterlight by Alexandra Bracken, and this is the 3rd book in the Darkest Mind series. This, obviously since it's the 3rd book, I can't describe it, but in this series we follow a girl named Ruby who, we live in this world where a lot of the children died, and the ones that remained have these special abilities ranging from just extra smarts to electricity to mind control and a few other things in between. And we follow Ruby as she breaks out from a camp because all the children are kept in these camps, and ends up going on the run and meets up with these other kids. And then this is the 3rd book, so I can't explain what goes on with this because it would spoil the first 2 books, but I mediocrely enjoyed this. I did give it a 4-star, but I think I gave it the 4 stars mainly for the characters. I love the characters, the plot, not so much, but I just love the characters. I love Ruby as a main character, the way she's not cut and paste perfect, and all of that. This is the 3rd book in the series, but I'm calling it the final book. There is a 4th book called The Darkest Legacy, which I do not plan on reading because I do not see it necessary, because the story wraps up pretty well. It wraps up well, and then, but open-ended because there's that 4th book. But I don't see the need to read the 4th book because I'm content with this ending. Plus, we follow a different main character in that. But I am so excited to finally say that I have this series finished. This has been an ongoing series for me to read since I think August 2018, I think, is when I read the 1st book for the first time. So I'm finally happy to say that I finished this book. I do not plan on reading any of the novellas. There's even a novella and then a bonus story inside this book. Ooh. But I do not plan on reading them because I feel content with the story I'm given. Next we have A Golden Fury by Samantha Cohoe. I do not know if I'm pronouncing the last name right. And this I gave 3 stars. This is we follow a girl named Thea Hope, who is the daughter of an alchemist. Her mother is an alchemist, and they are trying to create the Philosopher's Stone, which, if you do not know what the Philosopher's Stone is a stone that can turn, I think it's any metal, into gold and cure somebody on the brink of death and bring them back to health. So, in the process of Thea and her mother trying to make this, her mother goes insane because of one of the steps that you have to go through, and that causes Thea to have to go and live with her father in Oxford, but her father doesn't know that she exists. And that sets off this plot of trying to create the Philosopher's Stone and all of that. I only give it a 3 because the plot was a bit not what I expected. Not in a bad way, but just it wasn't what I expected. I did really like Thea as a character, how headstrong she is and all of that, but there wasn't really any side characters that made me grip onto them like I like. I did like the way that insanity was portrayed in this book. So that is one thing. I did almost DNF this around maybe about 20%. It did not get interesting until about 30% in the book, so about almost 100 pages in, because it's like a 350 page book, so it was around page 100 that it was started to get a little bit interesting. But the ending, I was just like, oh wait, huh, and all of that. Next we have Above All Else by Dana, Alison, Levy, and this I gave a 4 stars. This we follow Rose and Tate as they are about to climb Mount Everest. They are 18 years old. They just finished high school. They actually got out of high school a few months early to do this as an independent study, and it is them trying to climb Mount Everest while dealing with other things that are going on in their lives. And it is such a fun book. I read this in about 24 hours. I think it was in total like it was about 24 hours, I think, that I did read this. It was really fun. It was just, there was talks about I don't know, but there were talks about things like towards the end of the book about PTSD, which is something that is common and needs to be talked about more, and especially like in the case that is this, there is a, what can I say that's not spoilery? Oh my god, what can I say that's not spoilery? It is a fun read, but there are a few minor heavy-hitting topics that are to be warned that it is not all sunshine and rainbows. We're climbing Mount Everest, the highest point of the world, where literally the top of it is called the death zone. So keep that in mind if you do plan on reading this, but I 100% do recommend this book. It is such a fun experience, especially if you are interested in Mount Everest. As someone who doesn't really care about it, I learned a lot. Like, I learned, oh, this is how you actually would have to do it, because there is a lot of research given into it, for sure. And I learned something, and it was almost like a thrill for me to read it, being like, like, there was just a thrill of reading it that I enjoyed. And it was really good. And then finally we have The Cerulean by Amy Ewing. I'm going to hold it like this so you can read it, hopefully, but I don't have the dust jacket on it because I'm currently reading this, but I'm counting it as finished for this video because I have like, I think I have like, what? I think like 52 pages left, and I have so many thoughts about it already. There's a dust jacket. I'll just hold the dust jacket like this up against the book since I don't want to put it on. But in this book we follow Sarah, who is a Cerulean, the Cerulean is a race of people. They're like not a race of people, but a race of people that have silver skin, blue hair, and their blood is magic. They are a race of only females, and they live in this city above the sky where there's a tether attached to the planet, and that's how they live, type thing. But when the tether is to be broken, Sarah is chosen as a sacrifice to go down and break the tether so that the city can move to a new planet. And then we also follow, this isn't really a spoiler, we follow a set of twins, Leo and Agnes, that live on the planet below as well. I'm not going to say much more about them because that doesn't come into play until about 80 pages in, but I am loving this book. I'm giving it a 4.5 because that's what it deserves. I love the world that we have, the way that the Cerulean are, the way of the Cerulean life is so fascinating, and all of that, and the overall story so far is very well done. It feels so interesting, and I'm trying to figure out what to say without spoilers because I want to say spoilers, but I love this. It's getting a 4.5, which is the highest rated book that I have given, I think, to a... Yeah, it is the highest rated book on this list of this month that isn't a reread. Whoa. I just realized that the only 5 stars I've given are to 2 books that I reread. Oh my god. No wonder this month was so awful, it felt. But I love this book. I love it. I'm so excited to pick up the next book, and I haven't even finished this book. But yeah. So those are the books that I read in the last half of November. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye!